Welcome everyone to the Families Helping Families webinar, What to Expect During Virtual IEP Meeting. We're glad you joined us, and my name is Wallace Johnson from Families Helping Families. And we're going to email everyone that's attending the webinar a copy of the PowerPoint at the end. All lines are muted, so if you have questions for us, please use the chat box. And this webinar is being recorded. And our guest presenter today is Melinda Elliott, and she's done advocacy for many, many years, helping people with disabilities and their family members. And I'll turn it over to her so we can get started. Welcome, Melinda Elliott.
Thank you, Wallace. I appreciate it. My name is Melinda Elliott. I am the parent of grown children with disabilities as well as grandchildren with disabilities. So I'm still going to IEP meetings. The first thing that I want to cover is about one of the statewide advocacy programs that we have called LACAN. It stands for the Louisiana Council Advocacy Network. It's a grassroots advocacy network that you can join. We work on education and home and community supports. Part of what we do is linking lawmakers, people with disabilities, and family members to make change in systems that serve people with disabilities. To do that, we help people advocate for policies and systems that support inclusion everywhere people learn, live, work, play. And we help people advocate for systems that support children and adults with disabilities to live in their own homes and be fully included and participating members of their local schools and communities. LACAN leaders provide connection with a regional team of advocates. So when you join, you will be assigned to one of the regional teams, and there's a LACAN leader for each one of those teams. The leaders also provide information on proposed policy changes and how those changes might affect you and others. The LACAN leaders also provide training and skills to effectively advocate for systems change and support you to link with policymakers. I think it's important to lead with this kind of information so everybody knows ways that they can be connected. So the meat of the workshop is what to expect during virtual IEP meetings. I want to remind you, like Wallace said, if you have questions, type them in the chat. They'll either stop me or I will get them at the end, but don't wait and forget. Go ahead and type them when you think of it. So the first thing that I wanted to do was to go back to the law. If you look at the bottom of this slide, you're going to see the numbers and letters that reference federal law. It was always possible to have IEP meetings by alternate means. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, we call it IDEA, allows individual education program teams, IEP teams, to use alternate means of participation, such as video conference and conference calls. So what we're doing these days isn't new, it's just something that wasn't in common practice. People like to have in-person meetings. People like to be able to see each other. People like to be able to look at the same documents. And there's some workarounds to that, but this was always possible. Also in the law, it talks about IEP meeting participation. So whatever the format of the meeting, all the required participants, including parents, should be at the meeting or formally excused from the meeting if agreed upon in writing. If you've been to an IEP meeting where the teacher let's say the math teacher or the science teacher, it doesn't matter which one, provides a piece of paper that talks about what grade the child has at this point, what problems the teachers are seeing, what strengths the teacher is seeing, or maybe even what's missing, what coursework is missing. That's the way that members of the IEP team can provide input to, and if everybody agrees, be excused from the meeting. So that was already in law as well. So what should you expect before the meeting? There's lots of different ways of participating in IEP meetings. Those different ways provide different levels of privacy protections. One of the big questions I hear about all the time is, do I have to be on video? No, you don't have to be on video. It can be done without your child, you being on video. But you probably want to know how your child's privacy will be protected. I know the last time I did this workshop, somebody asked if you could request a specific system. I think we all have to remember that the school system by law is required to or is in charge of the privacy of your child's information, your child's IEP meeting. So they're going to want to use their systems. A lot of times today I'm going to be talking about GoToWebinar and Zoom because you got here, so you know a little bit about using Zoom. GoToWebinar is another one that one of our partner families, Helping Family Centers, uses. So you might know a little bit about that. But you should expect the school system to use their system. No matter what system, no matter what format, you should have the opportunity to share your concerns about the technology and issues you may have with participating in the IEP meeting. You should know if the platform or system, like I said, like Zoom, the school wants to use and the requirements to use it. And you should and can ask for a practice run if you need it. So if I wasn't familiar with the school system's platform, then I would want to practice. I'm sure Wallace can tell you every time I do a Zoom webinar like this, I want to practice before we do it. You want to also know if the school system is sharing their screen so that you can see the IEP, the document that you're working on while you're working on it. If there's specific software for the system that you're using, like for Zoom, you had to download something, you need to know that from the school system. That's another reason that I like those practice runs. When you're doing the practice run, you want to know a few things. Do you know how to get the audio? Do you know how to get the video if you want it, or turn off the video if you don't want it? Do you know how to let everybody turn to speak? Do you know how to mute? I don't know about your house, but at my house, things are busy. I like to mute myself when I'm not speaking so I can hear what everybody else is doing, hear it more clearly. You might want an agenda. And ask if there's any meeting rules you should know about. You can have this meeting by phone conference if you don't have another way that you know to do it, or that you just want to do it by phone conference. No matter which way you're doing it, if they're screen sharing, or maybe even if they're not screen sharing, you want to get a copy of the draft IEP before the meeting to see if you have it in your hands to be able to look at it before the meeting. As you know, we were talking about this in those few little minutes before the webinar started. There's always something going on with technology. You want a backup plan. If the technology doesn't work that day, everybody should know this is what the backup plan is and this is what we're going to do. So we had a meeting with my daughter and my grandson with the doctor, and we couldn't get the technology to work. So the backup plan was part of the people that were involved were on video, and I was on phone on speakerphone. So there, there's creative ways to have a backup plan, but you want to know what your backup plan is or to have thought about it. So before the meeting, have the backup plan ready. Do you have the documents printed? So they could email them to you. If you have the ability to be able to print them yourself, you don't have to wait for snail mail. They could email it to you, and where is it? Is it, did you get it? Where is it at your house? Because if you're like me, I'll put something down and then forget where I put it. Before the IEP meeting, you want to know, is your phone charged? Or if you're using your tablet or your laptop, are they charged? Or are you doing the meeting by the plug so that you can have it plugged in? Do you have the call-in number or the link where you can find it? So right now I'm getting so many emails because that's the major way people are exchanging information right now. I have a special folder where I put links in so that I can do a meeting. Try and remove as many distractions as you can and reduce as much background noise as you can. Like I said, if your house is busy like my house, you want to know how to mute so that you can reduce those distractions and that background noise. I routinely turn off the TV, turn off the radio, even though I like the background noise when I'm working on something. It's just distracting when I'm on a video conference or when I'm on a webinar or some kind of meeting. Do you need an interpreter? That needs to be discussed before the IEP meeting so that things can be put in place. You can have one of us on your IEP meeting, even if it's a phone conference or if it's a virtual IEP meeting. You need to tell your school system. They will send me or one of the other education specialists in my office a link, just like they'll send a link to you, or they'll send us the phone number to call in, just like they will to you. You have to remember to get my email to have it emailed to me, but oh, and finally, you should have a plan for disagreements. What are you going to do if things aren't working? So during the meeting, everyone looks and sounds different on camera. You notice I'm not on camera today because I've noticed that when I am on camera, I fool with my hair. It's distracting to me. So I typically am not on camera when I'm giving a webinar or in a meeting. People like to be able to see you. You like to be able to see people. So if you can, use your camera, or at least use it initially in the introductions if you can. Just because people like to see people. During the meeting, you want to keep the focus on your child, talking about what works for your child. You want to listen closely to what's said and wait until the speaker finishes, because if you talk over each other on video meetings, then you can't really hear anybody. And you want people to hear your thoughts and concerns. So you want to wait, listen to what's said, wait until the speaker finishes. It's just even more important during video or conference calls. You want to stop often and let everyone ask questions or offer information. Just like I told you, if you have a question, type it into the chat now while you've got it. while you remember it so we can be sure and get to it. Sometimes when we get the evaluations at the end, somebody says, you did or you didn't answer, or you did or didn't say this. And I'm thinking, wow, because I don't get the names with the evaluation. I'm thinking, wow, um, I missed the opportunity to share this, or they missed the opportunity to get this piece of information. And then there's still going to need to be signatures. So you should know how they're going to send the forms and or get your signature. If somebody doesn't mention it, ask. Because if you're waiting for a piece of mail, you need to know when they're going to send it and how they're going to send it. The same way with your official copy of the IEP. How are they going to get it to you? When can you expect it? I know some really engaged school system personnel that'll go by and put it in your mailbox. I also know that it's being put into the snail mail for people. You just need to know how you're getting it and when you can expect it. After the IEP meeting, you want to make sure if they're waiting for your signature, you want to make sure and sign it and send it back so that they can get it. If signing it and sending it back doesn't work, how else can you get it to them? You might, and they would probably welcome, offer feedback about the technology, because I've been using technology for a while, and sometimes I forget those little tricks that makes it work better. So if you notice or observe some of those things, talk to the school system about it. If you have questions or concerns about it, I put it in to my. I have an online calendar. I put it into my online calendar when I'm expecting a copy of something and the expected date, so that I can follow up when I don't get it. You can do the same thing. If you know that they're supposed to mail you the copies for you to sign, or your official copies tomorrow, then, you know, give it a few days and put yourself a note on your calendar, whatever kind of calendar you have, that you should have it by this time, or that you need to follow up on it. After, and it's not done. Once the IEP meeting is over, things aren't done. It's the one of the people's responsibility is the parent to check and keep making sure that the IEP is being implemented, that you're working on the things that you are expecting your child to be working on, that accommodations and modifications are happening the way that y'all agreed on and that you expect, and share your progress and concerns. You know, if you recognize that your child has achieved several of their goals, you might want to mention to the teacher that it's time for another IEP meeting. Or, I mean, you're going to learn all kinds of things and should know all kinds of things already that you didn't know before, because of the schoolwork we were trying to do at the end of last year. And if you're doing virtual work, you're going to know all kinds of things. You want to share that kind of information with the school system. You're going to know how your child works best. You're going to know how long your child can work, or if your child can work in certain ways. Like I said, you need a plan to address disagreements. Try to resolve those disagreements early and quickly. So I try to resolve the disagreements at the lowest level possible as quickly as I can. So who is at the IEP meeting, and who is the next person up that might be able to help me resolve this disagreement? You know, it could be a program facilitator, and at least in Calcasieu Parish, it could be a supervisor over grade levels. It could There's several different stops. It just depends on who is at the IEP meeting. And you can talk to one of us, call one of us and talk to us if you're trying to figure out what to do next or who to contact next. And if you have questions, you can always put it in the chat, or you can contact me or one of the other education specialists at this number or this email. Are there any questions, Wallace? I wonder.
I have some questions.
Yes.
Who can ask for a virtual IEP meeting?
So at this point, the school system is bending over backwards to accommodate people and their need to stay healthy and safe. I don't know of any school system right now, because I read a lot and listen to a lot of things. I don't know of any school system in Louisiana at this point that cannot accommodate you for a virtual IEP meeting or a phone conference IEP meeting. And I might be going out on a limb there, but I know school systems are more than prepared to go virtual, and I don't know of one yet that can't. So it could be you, it could be the school system, just like a regular IEP meeting.
Does your student have to participate in the virtual learning options in order to have a virtual IEP meeting? Or can any parent have a virtual IEP meeting even if they're not using the virtual learning option?
Okay, so I know some parents have their children in person school, but parent is has a health condition and doesn't go very many places and would like to have a virtual IEP meeting. And yes, they could. They need to contact their school and go up the chain of command if need be and request a virtual IEP meeting. And yes, you don't have to have an in-person IEP meeting because your child is or isn't going to in-person school.
Should you always follow up after a virtual IEP meeting?
And you know, that was always true, is that you could always have a virtual IEP meeting. Could you always follow up? Yep, of course. A virtual makes it no different than in-person school, whether you're doing virtual school or in-person school, virtual IEP meetings or in-person IEP meetings. You always follow up. You always want to get your official copy. You always want to observe if the IEP is being implemented, observe the if the accommodations and or modifications are working, observe if goals are being met or not being met, by the way, and if there needs to be a discussion about that. So easy answer is yes, Wallace.
Okay. And can you request more than one virtual IEP meeting a year?
Yes, exactly like you could request more than one in-person IEP meeting a year, you can request more than one virtual IEP meeting a year. So something changes, something comes up, yes, you can request another meeting.
Okay, there's something in the chat box. reading it. Virtual learning and virtual IEP meeting are two separate things.
Correct.
Any student can have a virtual IEP meeting. So they're just repeating basically what you said. Yes,
Oh,
that's
groovy.
correct.
Groovy. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, groovy.
Does anyone else have any questions? Please use the chat box. And for those that are attending by phone, if you could call our office so that we could make sure that you get a copy of the PowerPoint, that would help us a lot. Or if you already have our email address, it's info@fhfswla.org. You could email us and request a copy of the PowerPoint. That way I could send it to you, because if you're on the phone, I may not have your email address.
And those of you that are local, that have turned in your IEP like you were supposed to for school supplies, we're handing out the supplies between 12 and 3 tomorrow, right, Wallace?
Yes, ma'am.
You were good. So if you're local and you've done all the right stuff, that's the time.
And our address, if you need it, is 2927 Hodges Street in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And let me check and see if I see any more questions.
As soon as Wallace emails this to you, you'll have our phone number too if you need to find it and be able to call us.
Yeah, and I don't see any more questions. Thank you for Melinda for presenting to us today. And thank you everyone for attending our webinar. We're glad that you had joined us. Please watch for the post-event survey at the close of this webinar, and contact us if you need further help or have any questions. Thank you everyone. Enjoy your day.
Thank y'all.
Bye-bye.